Now, Keshav Kashmiri came at the sight of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He already had a little knowledge about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as soon as he entered Navdev Dham. Now he is saying, I understand that you are a teacher of grammar, he said, and that your name is Nimai Pandita. People speak very highly of your teaching of beginners grammar. I understand that you teach Kalapa Vyakarana. I have heard that your students are very expert in the word jugglery of this grammar. So here, Keshav Kashmiri, he learned that Mahaprabhu has gotten some knowledge, and he is trying to lower or underestimate Mahaprabhu's knowledge and his parivar. The Lord said, yes, I am known as a teacher of grammar, but factually I cannot impress my students with grammatical knowledge, nor can they understand me very well. Now Mahaprabhu is lowering himself. He had a very low profile. My dear sir, whereas you are a very learned scholar in all sides of scriptures and are very much experienced in composing poetry, I am only a boy, a new student, and nothing more. In this way, Mahaprabhu replied. Now, Mahaprabhu started, slowly giving the proper lessons for this Keshav Kashmiri. Let us see how intelligently Mahaprabhu takes him and how he makes him glorify Ganges, and later how Mahaprabhu slowly corrects him is a very Adbhuta Lila. Therefore, I desire to hear your skill in composing poetry. We could hear this if you would mercifully describe the glory of Mother Ganges. Mahaprabhu requested him. When the Brahmana Keshav Kashmiri heard this, he became still more puffed up. And within 1 hour, he composed 100 verses describing Mother Ganges. This is really fantastic. So nobody can able to do this. So Mahaprabhu is glorifying him. At the same time, he chastises and corrects him. The Lord praised him, saying, sir, there is no greater poet than you in the entire world. Your poetry is so difficult that no one can understand it, but you and Mother Sarvasi, the goddess of learning. But if you explain the meaning of one verse, we can all hear it from your own mouth and thus be very happy. The Digvijay Keshava Kashmiri inquired which words he wanted explained. The Lord then recited one of the 100 verses Keshava Kashmiri had composed. Now here we can understand Mahaprabhu, after hearing 100 words, he could able to remember one words also, all 100 words also, because he is the Lord himself. Now let us see how the debate goes on. The greatness of Mother Ganges always brilliantly excites. She is the most fortunate because she emanated from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is the second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped both by demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. In this way, Digvijay Pandit, he started. Let us see then. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him to explain the meaning of these words, the champion, very much astonished, inquired from him as follows. I recited all the verses like the blowing wind. How could you completely learn by heart even one among those verses? Is the starting stage of his astonishment. I recited just like 100 words, but I think that you could also able to remember one verse. How is it possible? He was lowering Mahaprabhu here. The Lord replied, by the grace of the Lord, someone may become a great poet, and similarly by his grace, someone else may become a great Shrutidhara who can memorize anything immediately. So Digvijay Pandit Keshav Kashmiri was a great devotee of the goddess of learning, Saraswati, and being favored by her, he was quite confident of his intellectual abilities. Upon the request of Lord Chaitanya, he immediately composed 100 verses glorifying the Ganges, and he eloquently recited these verses before Lord Chaitanya and his students. Satisfied by the statement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Brahmana Keshava Kashmiri explained the quoted words. Then the Lord said, now kindly explain the special qualities and faults in the words. The Brahmana replied, huh? There is not a tinge of fault in that verse. Rather, it has the good qualities of similes and alliteration. So he was very puffed up, and he did not think there weren't any faults in his composition. The Lord said, "My dear sir, I may say something to you. If you will not become angry, can you explain the faults in these words? There is no doubt that your poetry is full of ingenuity, and certainly it has satisfied the Supreme Lord. Yet, if we scrutinizingly consider it, we can find both good qualities and faults." The Lord concluded, now, therefore, let us carefully scrutinize these words. You are an ordinary student of grammar. What do you know about literary embellishments? You cannot review this poetry because you do not know anything about it. Taking a humble position, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, because I'm not on your level, I have asked you to teach me by explaining the faults and good qualities in your poetry. Certainly, I have not studied the art of literary embellishments, but I have heard about it from my higher circles. And thus, I can review these words and find it many faults and many good qualities. The poet said, all right, let me see what good qualities and faults you have found. My dear sir, in this verse, there are 5 faults and 5 literary ornaments. I shall state them one after another. Kindly hear me and then give your judgment. Now Mahaprabhu starts explaining the, one verse among 100 verses recited by Keshava Kashmiri. So this is goes to the Vakaran, grammar, etc. Kindly give your little attention. In this verse, the fault of Avimrishta Videyamsha occurs twice, and the faults of Viruddhamati, Bhagnakrama, and Punarata occur once each. The glorification of the Ganges, Mahatvam Gangayaha, is the principal unknown subject matter in these words. And the known subject matter is indicated by the word idam, which has been placed after the unknown, because you have placed the unknown subject at the end of that, which is unknown at the beginning. The composition is faulty, and the meaning of the words has become doubtful. Without first mentioning what is known, one should not introduce the unknown. For that which has no solid basis can never be established anywhere. In the word Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi, a second all-opulent goddess of fortune, the quality of being a second Lakshmi is the unknown. In making this compound word, the meaning became secondary and the original intended meaning was lost. Dvitiya Sri Lakshmi has got a different meaning. Let us see what it is. Because the word Dvitiya, second, is the unknown in its combination. In this compound word, the intended meaning of the quality with Lakshmi is lost. Not only is there the fault of Avimrishta Videyamsha, but there is also another fault which I shall point out to you. Kindly hear me with great attention. Here is another great fault. You have arranged the word Bhavani Bhartar to your great satisfaction, but this betrays the fault of contradiction. The word Bhavani means the wife of Lord Shiva, but when we mention her husband, one might conclude that she has another husband. So here, Bhava means it's the name of Lord Shiva. Bhavani means she is wife. Bhavani itself means she is the wife of Lord Shiva. But when he mentions Bhavani Bharta means one might conclude that she has another husband. This is the fault on the part of Keshava Kashmiri, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pointed out. It is contradictory to hear that Lord Shiva's wife has another husband. The use of such words in literature creates the fault called Viruddha Matikrut. If someone says, place this charity in the hand of the husband of the wife of the Brahmana, when we hear these contradictory words, we immediately understand that the Brahmana's wife has another husband. This is another contradiction. The statement by the word Vibhavati flourishes is complete, qualifying it with the adjective Adbhuta Guna, wonder qualities, creates the fault of redundancy. There is extraordinary alliteration in 3 lines of the verse, but in 1 line there is no such alliteration. This is the fault of deviation. Although there are 5 literary ornaments decorating this verse, the entire verse has been spoiled by these 5 most faulty presentations. If there are 10 literary ornaments in a verse, but even one faulty expression, the entire verse is nullified. One is beautiful, one has beautiful body, maybe decorated with jewels, but one spot of white leprosy, kushtu, makes the entire body abominable. As one's body, although well decorated with ornaments, is made unfortunate, but by even one spot of white leprosy, so an entire poem is made useless by a fault, despite alliteration, similes, and metaphors. Now here, the description of the 5 literary embellishments. There are 2 ornaments of sound and 3 ornaments of meaning. There is a sound ornament of alliteration in 3 lines, and in the combination of the words Sri and Lakshmi, there is the ornament of a tinge of redundancy. In the arrangement of the first line, the letter Ta occurs 5 times, and the arrangement of the third line repeats the letter Ra 5 times. This is all regarding the grammar, simile, metaphor, etc. Keshava Kashmiri thought that Mahaprabhu does not know all these things, but Nimai is the Supreme Lord himself, and he is trying to, he explained what are all his faults, and he is making him convincing. Now let us see what happens in the continuation. In the 4th line, the letter Bha occurs 4 times. This arrangement of alliteration is a pleasing ornamental use of sounds. Although the words Sri and Lakshmi convey the same meaning and are therefore almost redundant, they are nevertheless not redundant. Describing Lakshmi as possessed of Sri, opulence, offers a difference in meaning with a tinge of repetition. This is the 2nd ornamental use of words. The use of words Lakshmi Iva, like Lakshmi, manifests the ornament of meaning called Upama analogy. There is also the further ornament of meaning called Virodha Bhasha, or a contradictory indication. Everyone knows that lotus flowers grow in the water of the Ganges, but to say that the Ganges take birth from the lotus flower seems extremely contradictory, because Ganges does not take from the lotus flower. The thing to understand is lotus flower, they grow in the water. The existence of Mother Ganges begin from the lotus feet of the Lord. Although the statement that water comes from a lotus flower is a contradiction in connection with Lord Vishnu, it is a great wonder. In this birth of the Ganges by the inconceivable potency of the Lord, there is no contradiction, although it appears contradictory. Everyone knows that lotus flowers grow in the water, but water never grows from a lotus. All such contradictions, however, are wonderfully possible in Krishna. The great river Ganges has grown from his lotus feet. The real glory of Mother Ganges is that she has grown from the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Such a hypothesis is another ornament called Anumana. I have simply discussed the 5 gross faults and 5 literary embellishments of this verse, but if we consider it in fine detail, we will find unlimited faults. Then we do not know how is the response of this Keshava Kashmiri. And he was completely dissatisfied, and he was actually struck with wonder how this small boy can able to diligently give this kind of literary analysis. Let us see what happens. You have achieved poetic imagination and ingenuity by the grace of your worshipable demigod. But poetry not well reviewed is certainly subject to criticism. Now, indirectly, Nimai is criticizing demigod's worship also. Poetic skill is used with due consideration is very pure. and with metaphors and analogies, it is dazzling. After hearing the explanation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the champion poet was struck with wonder. His cleverness stunned. He could not say anything because all the way from top the map to the down the map, he defeated so many scholars with his scholarship. Now he came with a kind of a defeat. He wanted to say something, but no reply would come from his mouth. He then began to consider this puzzle within his mind. This mere boy has blocked my intelligence. I can therefore understand that Mother Saraswati has become very angry with me. So he is having imagination. The wonderful explanation the boy has given could not have been possible for a human being. Therefore, Mother Saraswati must have spoken personally through his mouth. So he was thinking in that way and forgetting that he is the Supreme Lord himself. Thinking thus, the Pandita said, "My dear Nimai Pandita, please hear me. Hearing your explanation, I am simply struck with wonder. I am surprised that you are not a literary student and do not have long experience in studying the Shastras. How have you been able to explain all these critical points?" Hearing this and understanding the Pandita's heart, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied in a humorous way. Let us see what is that. "My dear sir, I do not know what is good composition and what is bad, but whatever I have spoken must be understood to have been spoken by Mother Saraswati." Now he is pulling a Saraswati Devi also into the scene. Now let us see what happens. When he heard this judgment from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Pandita sorrowfully wondered why Mother Saraswati wanted to defeat him through a small boy. So he was quite ashamed. "I shall offer prayers and meditation to the goddess of learning," the champion concluded, "and I ask her why she has insulted me so greatly through this boy." Saraswati had in fact induced the champion to compose his words in an impure way. Furthermore, when it was discussed, she covered his intelligence, and thus the Lord's intelligence was triumphant. Triumphant means victory. When the poetic champion was thus defeated, all the Lord's disciples sitting there began to laugh loudly. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked them not to do so, and he addressed the poet as follows: "You are the most learned scholar and the topmost of all great poets. For otherwise, how could such fine poetry come from your mouth?" Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the beginning he praised, then he found faults. Again, he is encouraging him not to discourage. "Your poetic skill is like the constant flow of the waters of the Ganges. I find no one in the world who can compete with you." He's praising now. Even in the poetic compositions of such great poets as Bhababhuti, Jayadeva, and Kalidasa, there are many examples of faults. Such mistakes should be considered negligible. One should see only how such poets have displayed their poetic power. "I am not even fit to be your disciple. Therefore, kindly do not take seriously whatever childish impudence I have shown." When he heard this judgment, when he heard this judgment from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Pandita sorrowfully wondered why Mother Saraswati wanted to defeat her through small boy. I think this I have already read. So in 104, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, "Please go back home and tomorrow we may meet again so that I may hear discourses of the Shastras from your mouth." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again inviting him to come back the next day also to take some proper rest. In this way, both the poet and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went back to their homes. And at night, the poet worshipped Mother Saraswati. In a dream, the goddess informed him of the Lord's position, and the poetic champion could understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And he got really astonished. So this is the way he was dreaming, and Mother Saraswati introducing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And this Keshav Kashmiri got a wonderful lesson. And even Mother Saraswati says, "You are so fortunate that in this birth you had the Lord's darshan You are so lucky. Like that, she was praising him. Next morning, I will conclude in a couple of minutes. The next morning, the poet came to Lord Chaitanya and surrendered unto his lotus feet. The Lord bestowed his mercy upon him and cut off all his bondage to material attachment. He got completely liberated. The poetic champion was certainly most fortunate. His life was successful by dint of his vast learning and erudite scholarship, and thus he attained the shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has described all these incidents elaborately. I have only presented the specific incidents he has not described. The nectarian drops of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes can satisfy the senses of everyone who hears them. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. In this way, Lord Nimai has taught a wonderful lesson for this Keshav Kashmir. So I will just take a summary of and learning out of this. Now, one should not be proud of knowledge, intelligence, etc., but engage our knowledge in Lord's service. One should not laugh at others' faults, but we try to, correct them by taking a higher Vaishnavas association and find good qualities in others always. And if you find faults, and there is no use. And offer everything for the service of Krishna. Never criticize others. Surrender to Guru. Don't hanker for name, fame, self-adoration, etc. Just like Keshav Kashmiri was very proud of his scholastic knowledge, but it has been smashed by Lord Nimai. Never disrespect anyone. And do not expect any respect from others, but we must respect each and everyone in this world. Lord can teach anyone, anywhere, in any place. Pandit Ki Jai. Thank you very much for patiently hearing. If you have any questions, comments, you are welcome. Otherwise, we go for the regular announcements. Thank you.